tested that application is working as expected. We have tested that application is working as expected. Localhost colon 8080 slash swaggerui.html. We are able to see the insurance controller PDF file. If you click on try it out, execute, download PDF option is coming. When I click on this PDF download option, you see that the PDF file is getting downloaded with the data. Similarly, Excel file is upload. Excel file also we are able to download. PDF file also we are able to download. Got it. So now search request also we have tested. Post plans names. If I don't give anything in the plan name and plan status, if I click on search option, then I am getting all the 10 plans which are available in the table. Okay. My application is running successfully in the local. I want to deploy this application in the cloud platform so that we can access it from the front end. Let me host my application in the Heroku Cloud. If you want to integrate from the front end and the back end, then you need to have one small annotation called cross origin annotation. Let me add that annotation. For this REST controller, I'm setting one annotation called cross origin. Cross origin annotation I'm setting so that the integration can happen between the front end and back end. All right. Let me go to Heroku. Let me create another application. Already I have 4 applications, guys. I need to create another application. This is dynamic search application. Ashok IT dynamic search. Ashok IT dynamic search. So this is the name I'm taking. Create the application. Now my application is created. Now let's go to Heroku CLI. Yeah. Now from this project, this is my project 19 JRTP workspace. From this project, I'm opening my command prompt. In this command prompt, we just need to execute the commands which are given here. Heroku login. Heroku login. It will ask me to log into my Heroku Cloud. By pressing any key, it will open a browser to ask our credentials. Click on login. Login. I logged in into my Heroku Cloud successfully. Then git init command. Already I'm in the project folder, so I'm using git init command. Then Heroku git remote my repository name in the cloud. I'm executing this. Then next one, add all the files. Git add space dot. All the files are added. Git commit. I'm committing my all the files. Then push the files to Git repository. Push the files to Git repository. Okay. Now, see that the application is deploying into Heroku Cloud platform. We are not telling that our application is a Java application, but still it is detecting that our application is a Java application, and it is deploying our application into cloud platform by using Maven. That means Heroku is providing a platform to run our application. Heroku is providing the platform to run our application, right? Application deployed successfully. Now go to Open App section. Go to Open App section. Our application URL will be accessible. Currently we don't have any URL with a slash. So let's go with the swagger-ui.html. Now, can we access Swagger documentation of our REST API in the cloud? Can we access Swagger documentation of our REST API in the cloud? Come on, guys. Are we able to access Swagger documentation in the cloud? Yes, we are able to access Swagger documentation in the cloud. Now here I'm giving in the Telegram. You can use this Swagger URL to understand the application which is running in the cloud platform. Guys, all of you able to complete the backend part? All of you able to complete the backend part? My backend is ready that I have completed in the last session. Now do I need to deal with my IDE? Can I close my IDE now? Can I close my IDE? Do I need my IDE now? I don't need it because my application is already deployed in the cloud platform. My backend application is running in the Heroku Cloud platform. What is that Heroku? Heroku is an open source cloud which will provide the platform to run our application. So up to 5 applications you can run in the Heroku. So I have deployed dynamic search app. When you click on that application, there is an open app URL is available. Then you can use that Swagger documentation URL to access that application. You can use that Swagger documentation URL to access our application. Application is ready. Now what is the next step? Our application is ready. What is the next step? This is Heroku Cloud. This is a public cloud which is providing the platform to run our application. Heroku Cloud. Inside this Heroku Cloud, our dynamic search application is running. This is a REST API. This is a REST API. Third mini project I can say. 03 mini app. Third mini project is running in the Heroku Cloud. Now I want to develop this front-end application. Angular application I want to develop. Front-end application I want to develop. Now, in order to develop the front-end application, do I need some information or not? Can we directly develop the front-end or we need to know the details of the back-end? Directly can we develop the front-end application or we need to know the details of the back-end application? We need the details of the back-end application. How they are providing the back-end details? Can I say that Swagger is used for that purpose only? Can I say that they are providing a Swagger documentation? This mini project application is having a Swagger. Using this Swagger, we can develop our front-end application. Using this Swagger, we can develop our front-end application because front-end should access back-end. If the front-end application want to access the back-end application, if front-end application want to access the back-end application, front-end application should know the details of the back-end. Front-end application should know the details of the back-end. How the front-end application? Alright, now, guys, is my voice audible now? Is my voice audible now? Good. So here I am having my application, backend application for the 03 mini project. That backend application I have deployed in the Heroku Cloud and I am able to access that application documentation also from the cloud. So backend is ready. Now I want to develop a front-end application for that. Backend is running in the Heroku Cloud platform. Front-end I want to develop. Okay. In order to develop the front-end, do we need the backend details or not? In order to develop the front-end, do we need the backend details or not? We need the backend details. How we will get the backend application details, like what are the URLs available? What is the input we have to send? What is the output we have to send? How can we get the backend application details? Can you tell me? Swagger. Okay. So now for my backend application, Swagger is available. Swagger is used to generate the documentation for the REST API. By using the Swagger, we can understand backend application. Based on the information of the backend application, we can develop the front-end application. Front-end application we are building by using Angular. Now this Angular application is going to access the backend application by using HTTP client module. The backend application is going to respond for the request which is receiving. Angular application is going to send the request to the backend application, and backend application will give the response to this. This is what we have to build. Already we are done with this process. Mini project is ready. Our mini project is ready. Our cloud deployment is also ready. Our Swagger is also ready. Now what is pending now? What is the pending thing we have to do for third mini project? Can you guys tell me? What is the pending thing we need to do for third mini project? Come on, respond guys. What is the pending thing we need to do for third mini project? We need to develop our front-end application by using Angular. Then front-end application can talk to back-end application. Chalo. Now, let us try to develop a front-end. Guys, similarly here also, I have prepared one document for you. What are the steps we need to follow to develop our Angular application? For first mini project, I have given the steps na. UI development steps I have given. Similarly for this project also, I'm going to give you the steps. By following this document, you can develop your front-end application. By following this document, you can develop your front-end application. Now, NG workspace here. Let me open NG workspace available here. In this workspace, I'm going to create one more folder as dynamic search. Dynamic search UI. Dynamic search UI. From here, I'm opening my command prompt, code space dot. My VS Code IDE open from here. My VS Code IDE open from here. Got it. Now, do you know how to create an Angular application? Do you know how to create Angular application? Go to terminal. By default, it is giving the PowerShell. Do you need to execute the command in the PowerShell, or we need to execute the command in the command prompt? We need to execute the command in the command prompt. How can we execute the command in the command prompt? Change the terminal to command prompt. Change the terminal to command prompt. Now currently I am pointing to NG workspace dynamic search UI project. Now here I have given the commands clearly. Just to follow these commands, then you will be able to do that. NG new app name. Let's go here. NG new app name. Let me keep it as dynamic search. Let me keep it as dynamic search. Angular routing. Currently, actually, we don't need it. Fine. Chalo. CSS. One project is getting created. One project is getting created. Front-end application is getting created, guys. It is installing npm packages which are required to create our Angular application. Project is ready. Can we go inside the project? cd space dynamic search app. Can you execute ngserve command? Can you see the project is getting executed or not? ngserve command, which is used to run our project. We already discussed about Angular application creation, application execution, how the Angular applications are going to execute, what is a app component, and how the applications are going to run. All the details we have already discussed. Localhost colon 4200. Yeah, check it. My Angular application is running. Can you tell me this page is coming from which component? This page is coming from which component, guys? This page is coming from app component. App component. Can we change that? Can we change that? App component.html. Yes. This is app component. Save it. Now see, this is app component. We are able to change that. That's fine. So with this we are able to create the application, and our application is running successfully. I want to apply some styles for this project, guys. So let's install Bootstrap, jQuery, and Font Awesome. npm install Bootstrap and save it. I want to install Bootstrap for my project, and I want to install jQuery also in this project. jQuery also I'm installing, and I'm installing Font Awesome in my project. I'm installing Font Awesome. Some styles I want to apply for the font. For that I'm installing Font Awesome. So to install these three, you just need to execute these commands. Install Bootstrap and Font Awesome by executing below commands. You need to execute these commands from your project folder, guys. Currently I am inside my project folder. That's fine. Once we have installed Bootstrap and Font Awesome, we need to configure that Bootstrap and styles inside our angular.json file. If you go to our project, we will see one file called angular.json. Angular.json file is available. In this angular.json file, it will contain all the information related to what is output path, what is the index file, what is the main TypeScript file, all will be available. Here, styles and scripts are available. Styles and scripts are available. We can configure our own styles and scripts. We can configure our own styles and scripts there, because I want to add Bootstrap styles and Font Awesome styles for my project. So that's why I'm changing styles and scripts inside my project, inside this angular.json. So with this, environment setup is ready. We are able to create the project, we are able to install the Bootstrap and Font Awesome, and we are able to configure Bootstrap styles and Bootstrap JS files inside our project angular.json file. Once it is done, we need to create a request mapping class. As we discussed, we are going to get the data from the form. We are going to get the data from the form. Form data coming from drop downs. Two drop downs data we are going to get. Those drop downs data I am binding to one class that is called my request mapping class. That class I am taking as a search request. That classes I am taking as a search request. So do you know how to create a class here? Do you know how to create a class in the Angular? Can you tell me how to create a class in the Angular? ng generate class name I'm giving as a search request. I'm giving the class name as a search request. One class is getting created. Search request.ts file. The class got created. The class got created with a name called search request.ts. Inside the search request class, I'm going to declare my fields, plan name and plan status. Whatever the data that we are going to get, I have declared these fields data. So when user submit this form, the data will be stored into search request class object. Plan name and plan status I'm taking. Similarly, I'm going to take one more class called search response. Guys, when you are creating the search response, you need to make sure what is the data you are giving as the input for the REST API and what is the data you are getting as a response from the REST API. Search request class variables should match with the REST API input data structure. Search response class variables should match with the REST API response fields. Plan name, plan status, plan ID, holder name, benefit amount. I need to create a search response class. I need to create a search response class based on those variables. Search response class is also created. Inside the search response, I am configuring the variables. These variable names should match with the REST API response binding class variables. REST API is going to give me the data in this format. REST API is going to give me the data in this format. Got it? Benefit amount also I'm taking as a string, dollar symbol is coming there. Alright. Plan ID, plan name, plan status, holder name, benefit amount. Can you see? These variable names are matching because REST API giving the data, that data we need to bind to the class at the front end side. Search request class is available, search response class is available. Are you guys comfortable with this? Creating search request class and creating search response class. What is the command we are executing? Ng generate class name I am giving as search request, and creating response mapping class. Okay, ng generate class, that is search response. Got it? Now here one thing that is important here, note, make sure search request and search response class variables, search request and search response class variable names are matching with backend REST API input data type, input data fields and output data fields. Make sure search request class variables, search request class variable names are matching with backend API input fields. Search response class variable names are matching with backend API output fields. Make sure search request class variable names are matching with the backend API input fields and search response class variable names are matching with the backend API output fields. This is very, very important step. Otherwise, data mapping cannot happen. If variable names are not matching, data mapping cannot happen between the front end and the back end. If variable names are not matching, data mapping will not happen at the front end and the back end. If variable names are not matching, then what is the problem? If variable names are not matching, then data mapping will not happen. So that's why you need to be very careful. When you are creating input binding classes and output binding classes at the front end. Already at the back end we have input binding classes and output binding classes. With the same variable names, you need to create the input binding classes and output binding classes at the front end also. Clear? Once it is done, the next step is create a service class. Guys, can you tell me what is the purpose of the service class in the Angular? Can you tell me what is the purpose of service class in the Angular? Any idea? Did I explain services in the Angular? Yes. What is the purpose of services in the Angular? To write the business logic. We are going to write the service classes. Okay. ng generate service. I'm giving this as insurance. ng generate service insurance. Now service class is created. Create a service class. What is the command to create the service class, guys? What is the command to create the service class? ng generate service insurance. ng generate service insurance. It is going to create a service class where we can write the business logic of our application. It is going to create a service class where we can write the business logic of our application. What is the business logic of our application? What is the business logic of our application? Application business logic is nothing but backend API calls. Application business logic is nothing but backend API calls. In the Angular, we have a template here. Template will contain presentation logic. Then we will have a component here. Then we will have a service here. Then we will have a service here. Now, my backend API is running in the cloud platform. My REST API is running in the cloud platform. Which cloud it is using? Where my REST API running? In which cloud my REST API is running? My REST API is running in Heroku Cloud. That is a public cloud. You can access directly. You can access directly. Now this is my template file where I will have a presentation logic. Template is going to be HTML file. Template is going to be a HTML file. And here I will have a component. Here I will have a component. Here I will have a service. Inside the service, I'm going to use one package called HTTP package. Inside the service, I'm going to use one package called HTTP package. This HTTP client package will be available, right? HTTP client package is responsible to access the backend REST API, which is running in the cloud platform, and get the response from the backend REST API. This is the duty of my service component. Business logic will be available in the Angular service. Now inside the service we are using HTTP client in order to access backend REST API. Do you know backend REST API details? Do we know backend REST API details, guys? Do we know the backend REST API details, or we don't know the backend REST API details? We know the backend REST API details because they provided the information by using what? They provided that information by using Swagger. They provided that information by using what? Swagger. So with the help of Swagger,
Welcome to Geo. మీ రోజువారీ డేటా బ్యాలెన్స్ 2 GB లో నుండి 2 GB న రెన్యూ చేయబడుతుంది. 28 ఏప్రిల్ 2022 వద్ద 12:08 AM మీ వద్ద 8.63 GB లో నుండి 30 GB డేటా బ్యాలెన్స్ ఉంది. 1 మే 2022 9.
request binding class. Another one is response binding class I am using. Do we have the binding classes at the front end? Do you have the binding classes at the front end or not? We are having a request binding class available. We are having a request binding class and we are having a response binding class. What is the purpose of this request binding and response binding? Whatever the data coming from the template, that data will be mapped to the request binding. Whatever the data coming from the REST API, that data will be binded to response binding. The data will be binded to response binding. Samjhe what we are trying to do? Request binding is available and response binding classes also available. Why we are using request binding and response binding? To map the input data and output data. Request binding and response binding we are using to map the input data and output data. Able to follow me? Now, service class. How to create a service class? ng generate service. Now, with this I have created a service class. Can you see? Insurance service.ts. To represent a class as a service in the Angular, we are going to use injectable annotation. This service class can be injected into component class in future to call the methods. This service will be injected into component by using dependency injection. How we are representing this class as a service? Service class will have one annotation called @injectable. What is the annotation will be available for the service class, guys? Service class will have an annotation called @injectable. What is the purpose of injectable? That class can be injected into the component. How to represent the class as a component? @component annotation will be available. @component annotation will be available. Now, inside the service we are going to use HTTP client, which is used to send a request to the backend REST API. This is what we are trying to build now. This is what we are trying to build now. Can you look at this diagram? Can you look at this diagram? Now, can I say that this is my front end part? Can I say that this is my front end part? This is a front end part. This is my front end part. Front end application, Angular application. Front end app using ng nothing but Angular. Front end application using ng nothing but Angular, guys. Front end application using ng. Okay. Yes. Now, what should we do in the service layer now? What should we do in the service layer? Service layer should contain the logic to access the backend. First of all, we are going to inject HTTP client in the service. Inside the constructor, I'm injecting HTTP client because I need to inject HTTP client. In order to inject the HTTP client, first we need to import HTTP client module. First, what we need to do? We need to import HTTP client module. Import HTTP client module. Import HTTP client module. Yeah, HTTP client module we need to import. By control space not coming. HTTP client module we have to import. I have given which modules we have to import at the last, guys. HTTP client module we have to import from common HTTP package. Now HTTP client module is imported. Then HTTP client we can import from here. I have imported HTTP client package. I have imported HTTP client package. Now here, guys, first I want to write one method called getPlanNames. I want to write one method called getPlanNames. Observable we need to import. Now can you see this method getPlanNames? What is the purpose of this getPlanNames method is, here we are having plan names method na, unique plan names I want to get. Unique plan names I want to get. Why? Because I want to display the data in the drop down. So this is my URL, https://ashokit-dynamicsearch.herokuapp.com/plan-names. So this is my URL. This is my URL, which is used to access unique plan names from the backend. This is my URL. If I hit this URL in the browser, what will happen? What will happen? Am I getting unique plan names? Why I am getting the unique plan names? The unique plan names I need to display in the first drop down. So in order to access the data for the first drop down, I am writing one method in the service layer. That method name is getPlanNames. What this method is doing? HTTP client.getOff this URL. This URL will give plan names. This URL will give plan names. Similarly, we have one more method to get the plan status. There is one more method available which is used to get the plan status. What is the URL for the plan status? What is the URL for plan status? Click on try it out. Click on execute. So this is the request URL to get the plan status. Can you try this URL in the browser? Yes. Are you able to get the unique plan statuses? Yes, we are getting unique plan statuses that I am going to configure in the second method. That means this get plan names method in the service class will access this URL, which is a backend API URL running in the cloud. This get plan status method is used to access. This method is used to access this URL, which will give unique plan status. These methods are used to get the data for the drop downs. That's it. These methods are used to get the data for the drop downs. Are you clear with these two methods in the service layer? Service layer class in the Angular is used to write the business logic. So to represent this class as a service, we are going to use one annotation called @injectable. We are going to use one annotation called @injectable. Then we are using HTTP client to make a request. HTTP package is required to make a request to the backend API. This can be called as a request and this can be called as a response. Now HTTP request we are going to send it to the REST API. HTTP response we are going to get from the REST API by using HTTP package. Alright, two methods I have written. One is used to get the plan names for the first drop down. Another one is used to get the plan status for the second drop down. Are you comfortable with these two methods in the service layer? Are you comfortable with these two methods in the service layer? Now third one is search method. Guys, getting the data for the drop downs is a get request operation. But what about search operation? Search is a get request or search is a post request? Search is a get request or search is a post request? Search is a post request. Why? Because we want to send the drop downs data to the backend. Today we have two fields. You can send in the URL also. But think about future scenario. In future, client want to search the data based on multiple conditions. In future, client wants to search the data based on multiple conditions. Then what to do? We need to go for request body. So get request will not have a body. That's why we'll go for post request. That's why I'm writing one method. That method is going to send a post request. I'm going to send one method. That method is going to use a post request. Now guys, here there are multiple options are available. Search request type object I am passing, and response I am getting as an array. In order to search the data, we have a post request method. Don't give the plan name and plan status. Then click on execute. Post request. This is the URL which will give the data. This is my post request URL. Now if you see in the post request, I'm sending the request object also. What is the meaning of request object? Request object means search request. User may select the data in the drop downs. User may select the data in the first drop down. User may select the data in the second drop down. So the drop downs data we are mapping to one class at the front end that is called search request. Once we send this post request with the search request data, what we are getting? Search response. So plans can be multiple. Array of plans we are getting. So we are binding that data by using search response array. Here observable of any string data will come, array data will come. Here particular data I am binding to the class. Search response I am going to get. Here get request with the URL. Here post request with the URL. Not only URL, post request comma request object also. That means form data whatever you are entering, that data also going to the server in the post request. This is used to get the data for first drop down. This is used to get the data for the second drop down. This is used to handle search button functionality. When you click on search button, whatever the drop downs you have selected, the data is in the request object. The data is going to the server in the request body through post request. Then server is going to send the response in the array format. That array response we are binding to search response array. Search response is a class we have created. That means from the server these fields are coming. If your variable names and server response variables are not matching, data binding cannot happen. That's why variable names should be very proper. This method is used to send the post request. This is my application URL, guys. You need to change it to your application URL. Okay, fine. Next one, get Excel, get PDF. There is a method available which is used to get the Excel data from the server. Simply sending a get request. One small change we need to specify that response type we are getting a Excel file is downloading na array buffer, we are converting it as a JSON. When we are downloading that file, we are setting that as response type array buffer as a JSON. Okay, here our application URL should be configured properly. /Excel, which will download the Excel file. Similarly, get PDF, which is going to download our PDF file. For that also we are going to specify response content type. Whatever the response we are getting from our backend API. One second. Ashok ID Dynamic Search is the app name. Ashok ID Dynamic Search app name /PDF. Response type we are getting as array buffer. I'm converting that as a JSON. So total there are 5 methods available in my Angular service class. First method, get the data for the first drop down by hitting the backend URL. Second method will get the data for second drop down by hitting the backend URL. Third method, search operation. When user click on search button in the front end, send the data to the backend API and get the response from the backend API. Fourth method to download the Excel. Fifth method to get the PDF. To get the Excel file from the server, get Excel method. To get the PDF from the server, we are using get PDF method. So total there are 5 methods available in my service. Only one method is sending a post request, that is a search button method. When you click on the search button, post request will go. Remaining all 4 are get request methods only. Are you clear with this, guys? Are you clear with the service class in the Angular? Service is using HTTP. Using HTTP, we are sending a request to the backend API, and backend API is giving the response for us. Samjha? Now what is the next step? Create the component class. The next step is create a component class. Do you know how to create a component? ng generate component name. I'm giving the component name as insurance. Now let us create a component. How to create the component? ng generate component. I'm giving the component name as insurance. Already we have the app component, and now we created a child component called insurance component. Now I created a component called insurance component. Okay. Now what we need to do in the insurance component? First of all, in this insurance component, I need to inject the service. Dependency injection I have to do, guys. Service bean should be injected to this component bean by using dependency injection. Component should be injected into service. Why component should be injected to service? To perform the dependency injection. Now this is dependency injection. Why we are doing the dependency injection? Why the service object is injected to the component, guys? Can you tell me? Can you tell me why service is injecting into component? Come on. Any idea why service is injecting into component in the Angular? Guys, please respond. Please respond. Why I am injecting the service object into component? Where is my business logic available? Where is my business logic available? My business logic contains inside the service. My business logic available inside the service. My application logic will be available inside the component. My presentation logic will be available in the HTML. My presentation logic available in the HTML. My presentation logic is available in the HTML. My business logic is available in the service. My application logic is available in the component. Component will contain application logic. Service will contain business logic. My service will contain business logic. Are you clear? Service class is having some functions, right? Where we need to call those functions? Who will call the service class functions? Who will call our service class functions? Can you tell me? Who will call the service class functions in the Angular application? Component class will call. So, if you want to call service class function in the component class, service class should be injected into component or not? If you want to call the service class functions in the component, service class should be injected into component or not? Service class should be injected into component. That is called a dependency injection. That is called as dependency injection. Using the constructor, we are going to do the dependency injection. Go to component.ts file. Inside this constructor, I am injecting service. That is my insurance service. This is called constructor private of insurance service insurance service. I'm able to inject this class. I'm able to inject this class. Are you clear with my point? I'm able to inject this class. Service object is injected into constructor by using dependency injection. By using constructor injection I am using. Service bean is injected into component so that component class, now see here, component class can call the methods of the service and the service will give the response to the component. This is what we are happening. This is what is going to happen now. This is what is going to happen now. Service class is having a business logic. Service class is having a business logic. Service class having some functions. Service class functions we need to call in the component class. So service object is injected into the component object. Service object injected into component object. Understood? Service object injected into component object. Then here, in order to handle this operation, I'm going to declare some variables in this. Public plan names and plan statuses. Some two variables I'm taking. Plan names and plan statuses. We'll see what is the purpose of those variables also. Then after selected plan name, selected plan status, I'm taking as another two variables. Which options we are selecting in the drop down. I'm declaring plan names and plan statuses. Selected plan and selected plan status, I'm declaring two variables. Now I am declaring another variables to represent search request and search response. Search request and search response we are representing. For search request we are creating an empty object. Empty object we have created. Search request colon, this is a variable is equal to new search request. Creating an object for the request and search response is an empty array I have declared. This is used to bind the form data and this is used to hold the response coming from the REST API. Now here we are writing one methods we are writing few methods to get the plan names and plan statuses from service layer. Get plan names. Service, this dot service dot get plan names, whatever the data we are getting, storing the data into plan names. Get plan status. Now simply this method calling service layer method. Calling service layer method for first drop down data. For the first drop down data. Get plan names is my method. Service dot get plan names. Whatever the data we are getting from the service, storing into plan names variable. Now here calling service layer method for second drop down data. Calling the service layer method for second drop down data. Get plan names. It is calling service layer dot get plan names. Get plan status. Service layer dot get plan status. What this service layer will do? Service layer, when I call get plan names, service layer will access the backend. When I call get plan status, will access the backend. Understood? Now my component class is calling the service layer method. Component class is going to call the service layer method. Service layer method will call the backend API method by using HTTP. Get plan names, get plan status. When we want to load the plan names and plan status, whenever the component is loaded, we want to load the plan name and plan status. So I'm keeping them in the init method. So whenever this component is loaded, I want the form data. When this component is loaded, I want the form data. So for that purpose, I am using get plan names, get plan status methods. I am calling ng on init. Whenever this component is loaded, immediately I want to call these methods so that the drop downs will be displayed in the form. Drop downs will be displayed in the handle the button when user click on search. When user click on search, whatever the plan they selected, I'm storing into this. That I'm storing into request. That request object I am passing as